Welcome to my channel. This is where you can fall asleep to horror stories. I have a very soothing voice that will lull you into a peaceful slumber while I tell you terrifying tales that will make your blood run cold. From creepypastas to urban legends, I've got it all. So if you're looking for a new way to get your heart racing before bed, then look no further. Just make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my new stories. And if you want to support me and my work, then buy me a coffee. I'll use the money to buy better audio equipment so that I can make the most immersive experience possible for you guys. So sit back, relax, and let me take you away to a world of make-believe where anything can happen and everything is designed to scare the living daylight out of you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Title: The Haunting of Blackwood Manor. Chapter 1. The Inheritance. Emma Blackwood never imagined that inheriting her great-uncle's sprawling estate would be the beginning of her nightmare. Blackwood Manor, a grand but crumbling mansion nestled deep in the woods, had been in her family for generations. The place was rumored to be cursed, but Emma dismissed the tales as mere superstitions. Upon arriving at the manor, Emma was struck by its eerie beauty. The once majestic structure stood tall, its windows dark and its walls covered in ivy. The front door creaked ominously as she pushed it open, revealing a grand foyer with a sweeping staircase and an intricate chandelier covered in cobwebs. Emma's footsteps echoed through the empty halls as she explored the manor, her curiosity mingling with a growing sense of unease. She decided to stay at the manor for a few weeks to assess its condition and decide what to do with the property. She set up camp in one of the least decayed rooms and began the arduous task of cleaning and restoring the old house. As she worked, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched, and the shadows seemed to move just out of the corner of her eye. Each day brought new discoveries: dusty portraits of stern-faced ancestors, antique furniture covered in white sheets, and rooms filled with forgotten relics. The manor was a labyrinth of hallways and hidden passages, and Emma often found herself getting lost in its sprawling layout. In the evenings, she would sit by the fireplace, reading through old letters and journals she had found in the attic. The writings painted a picture of a family plagued by tragedy and misfortune. Strange accidents, unexplained disappearances, and whispers of dark rituals filled the pages. Despite the unsettling stories, Emma felt a strange connection to her ancestors and a growing determination to uncover the truth about the manor's history. One stormy night, as lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, Emma heard the faint sound of music coming from the piano in the parlor. The melody was hauntingly beautiful, but it sent a chill down her spine. She cautiously approached the parlor, her heart pounding. The piano keys moved on their own, playing a ghostly tune. As she reached out to touch the piano, the music abruptly stopped, and the room plunged into an eerie silence. Emma backed away, her breath coming in quick gasps. She knew then that the stories about the manor's haunting were more than just legends. Chapter 2. The Discovery. While exploring the manor one afternoon, Emma stumbled upon a hidden room in the attic. The door was concealed behind a large wardrobe, and it took considerable effort to push it aside. Inside, the room was filled with dusty old books, strange artifacts, and an ancient-looking mirror. The mirror's ornate frame was adorned with symbols that Emma couldn't decipher, and its glass seemed to shimmer with a strange otherworldly light. Drawn to the mirror, Emma felt an inexplicable urge to touch it. As her fingers brushed the glass, a chilling sensation ran down her spine, and she quickly pulled her hand away. Shaking off the unease, she began to examine the other items in the room. There were journals filled with cryptic writings, old photographs of the manor's previous inhabitants, and peculiar trinkets that seemed to pulse with a dark energy. One of the journals belonged to her great-uncle, Arthur Blackwood. His entries were filled with detailed accounts of his experiments in the occult. He had been obsessed with contacting the spirit world and had conducted numerous rituals using the mirror as a conduit. Emma read with growing horror as he described his attempts to summon and trap spirits, culminating in his ill-fated encounter with Eliza, the vengeful witch. That night, Emma experienced her first nightmare. She dreamt of a malevolent spirit, a woman with hollow eyes and a twisted smile, who whispered sinister secrets into her ear. The spirit's voice was like a cold wind, sending shivers down Emma's spine. In her dream, she saw herself standing in front of the mirror, the symbols on its frame glowing with a dark light. When Emma awoke, she found herself standing in front of the mirror, her reflection staring back at her with a cold, empty gaze. Her heart raced as she realized she had no memory of how she got there. The following night, the nightmares returned, even more vivid and terrifying. Eliza's spirit seemed to be growing stronger, her whispers more insistent. Emma would wake up drenched in sweat, her heart pounding. She began to dread falling asleep, knowing that the spirit would be waiting for her in the darkness. During the day, Emma's anxiety grew. She started hearing faint whispers even when she was awake, and she would catch fleeting glimpses of a shadowy figure out of the corner of her eye. The manor seemed to come alive with sinister energy, and Emma felt like she was being watched at all times. Chapter 3. The Possession. Over the next few days, strange things began to happen. Emma would find herself in places she didn't remember going, and she started hearing whispers in the dark. The spirit from her nightmares seemed to be growing stronger, and Emma's grip on reality was slipping. Objects would move on their own. Doors would slam shut without warning, and the air would grow cold and heavy with a palpable sense of dread. Desperate for answers, Emma delved into the manor's history. She discovered that her great-uncle had been a practitioner of dark magic and had used the mirror to trap the spirit of a vengeful witch named Eliza. The more Emma learned, the more she realized that Eliza's spirit was attempting to possess her. She found old newspaper articles detailing her great-uncle's experiments and the mysterious disappearances of several townsfolk who had ventured too close to the manor. As the days passed, Emma's behavior became increasingly erratic. She would experience blackouts and wake up to find herself covered in scratches and bruises. The people around her began to notice the change, and whispers of the curse spread through the town. Emma's friends and family grew concerned, but she couldn't bring herself to tell them the full extent of what was happening. She felt isolated and alone, trapped in a waking nightmare. One evening, as she sat by the fireplace, Emma heard a soft, melodic humming coming from the attic. She followed the sound, her heart pounding in her chest. When she reached the hidden room, she found the mirror glowing with an eerie light. The reflection showed Eliza's spirit, her eyes filled with malevolence. Emma felt a surge of cold energy as the spirit reached out to her, and she blacked out. When she regained consciousness, Emma found herself lying on the floor of the hidden room, the mirror shattered into 1,000 pieces. Her hands were covered in blood, and she had no memory of how it had happened. The walls of the room seemed to pulse with a dark energy, and the air was thick with a sense of malevolence. Emma knew she was running out of time. Chapter 4. The Fight for Control. Determined to rid herself of Eliza, Emma sought the help of a local historian and occult expert, Dr. Samuel Reeves. Dr. Reeves had heard of the Blackwood family's dark history and was intrigued by Emma's plight. He agreed to help her, and together they devised a plan to banish Eliza's spirit once and for all. They would perform a ritual using the artifacts in the hidden room and the mirror. Dr. Reeves warned Emma that the process would be dangerous, but she was willing to do whatever it took to free herself from the spirit's grip. On the night of the full moon, Emma and Dr. Reeves gathered the necessary artifacts and prepared for the ritual. The air in the hidden room grew thick with tension as they lit candles and arranged the items in a circle around the mirror. Dr. Reeves recited the incantations, his voice steady and unwavering. While Emma tried to focus on the task at hand, the mirror seemed to pulse with dark energy, and the symbols on its frame glowed with an eerie light. As they began chanting the ancient incantations, the temperature in the room dropped, and the shadows deepened. The mirror seemed to pulse with a dark energy, and Eliza's spirit materialized, her hollow eyes fixed on Emma. With each verse of the chant, the spirit's presence grew stronger, and Emma could feel Eliza's icy grip tightening around her mind. The air was filled with a low, ominous hum, and the walls seemed to close in around them. Halfway through the ritual, Eliza's spirit lashed out, shattering the circle of artifacts and throwing Dr. Reeves across the room. Emma was left alone, face to face, with the vengeful spirit. Eliza's twisted smile sent a wave of terror through Emma, but she knew she couldn't give up. She could feel the spirit's malevolent energy coursing through her veins, threatening to consume her. Drawing on every ounce of strength, Emma continued the incantations, her voice trembling but determined. The room shook, and the shadows seemed to come alive, swirling around Emma and Eliza in a chaotic dance. The spirit's grip on Emma's mind wavered, and she saw a flicker of hope. She focused on that glimmer of light, refusing to let the darkness take over. Chapter 5. The Struggle. The struggle was intense, with Eliza's spirit trying to break free from the ritual's binding circle. Emma felt the darkness clawing at her mind, trying to pull her into a vortex of despair and malevolence. The air grew colder, and the candles flickered as if caught in an unseen wind. The shadows on the walls twisted and writhed, forming grotesque shapes that seemed to reach out for Emma. Dr. Reeves regained consciousness and joined Emma in the chant, his voice lending strength to hers. Together, they fought against the spirit's overwhelming power, their voices rising in a crescendo of determination. The air crackled with energy, and the symbols on the mirror blazed with a blinding light. Eliza's spirit let out a blood-curdling scream as the ritual's power began to take hold. Eliza's form wavered, her malevolent eyes flickering with uncertainty. Emma could feel the spirit's grip on her mind loosening, but Eliza was not ready to give up. With a final desperate surge of power, the spirit lashed out, sending a wave of dark energy toward Emma and Dr. Reeves. The force of the attack knocked them to the ground, but they refused to relent. Chapter 6. The Final Confrontation. With a final, desperate effort, Emma seized the mirror and held it up to Eliza. The spirit recoiled, her hollow eyes widening in fear. Emma continued the chant, her voice growing stronger with each word. The mirror began to glow with an otherworldly light, and Eliza's spirit let out a blood-curdling scream. As the light intensified, the spirit's form began to dissolve, and Emma felt the icy grip on her mind release. With a deafening crack, the mirror shattered, and Eliza's spirit was banished into the void. The room fell silent, and Emma collapsed to the floor, exhausted but victorious. Dr. Reeves rushed to her side, his face etched with concern and relief. In the days that followed, the atmosphere in Blackwood Manor lightened, and the whispers ceased. Emma began to regain her strength and sanity, but the experience left her forever changed. She decided to leave the manor behind, hoping to escape the darkness that had plagued her family for generations. Despite the apparent victory, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching her. Shadows seemed to linger just a little too long, and the air still felt charged with a faint, malevolent energy. Dr. Reeves assured her that the ritual had been successful, but Emma's unease persisted. Chapter 7. A New Beginning. Determined to leave the past behind, Emma moved to a small town far from Blackwood Manor. She found a job and started to rebuild her life, but the memories of the manor and Eliza's spirit haunted her dreams. She couldn't shake the feeling that the curse was still with her. Emma sought solace in her newfound friends and threw herself into her work, but the darkness lingered at the edges of her consciousness. One night, while walking home from work, she noticed a figure watching her from the shadows. Her heart raced, and she quickened her pace, but the figure followed. The figure revealed itself to be Dr. Reeves, who had been searching for Emma since the night of the ritual. He explained that the curse was not entirely lifted, and that Eliza's spirit had found a way to cling to Emma's soul. Together, they had to find a way to break the curse once and for all. Dr. Reeves introduced Emma to a coven of witches who specialized in cleansing dark energy. The witches welcomed Emma into their circle and began to prepare for the final ritual. They warned Emma that the process would be dangerous and that Eliza's spirit would fight with all its remaining strength bound to her. Chapter 8. The Final Battle. Dr. Reeves and the Coven of Witches led Emma to a secluded location where they could perform a powerful cleansing ritual. The clearing was surrounded by ancient trees, their branches forming a natural barrier against the outside world. As they prepared for the ritual, Eliza's spirit manifested. More vengeful than ever, the air crackled with dark energy, and Emma could feel the spirit's malevolent presence growing stronger. With Dr. Reeves's guidance, Emma chanted the final incantations, her voice filled with determination. The spirit fought back, lashing out with dark tendrils of energy, but Emma stood her ground. As the ritual reached its climax, a blinding light enveloped the area, and Eliza's spirit was torn from Emma's soul, banished to the void once and for all. The struggle was intense, with Eliza's spirit trying to break free from the ritual's binding circle. Emma felt the darkness clawing at her mind, trying to pull her back into the abyss. She focused on Dr. Reeves's voice and the words of the incantation, using them as a lifeline to hold on to her sanity. At the height of the battle, a surge of energy erupted from the center of the circle, forcing Eliza's spirit to dissipate. Emma felt a rush of relief as the malevolent presence lifted, leaving her mind clear for the first time in months. The witches continued their chants, sealing the rift between worlds and ensuring that Eliza could never return. Chapter 9. Peace, at last. With the curse finally broken, Emma felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. The darkness that had plagued her was gone, and she could finally move forward with her life. She thanked Dr. Reeves and the Coven of Witches for their help and vowed to cherish every moment of her newfound freedom. Emma returned to her small town, determined to start anew. She found happiness in the simple pleasures of life and built a future free from the shadows of her past. The haunting of Blackwood Manor was over, but the lessons she learned would stay with her forever. Despite the ordeal, Emma found herself stronger and more resilient. She took up writing, documenting her experiences in a series of journals that she hoped would one day help others facing similar struggles. As the years passed, Emma's story became a legend in the town, a tale of courage and perseverance in the face of darkness. The manor itself remained abandoned, a relic of a bygone era. Occasionally, curious visitors would venture to the edge of the woods, drawn by the stories of hauntings and curses. But Blackwood Manor stood silent, its secrets buried deep within its walls. One crisp autumn evening, as Emma watched the sunset from her porch, she felt a gentle breeze brush against her cheek. For a moment, she thought she saw a shadow move at the edge of the forest, but when she looked again, it was gone. She smiled, knowing that the darkness had finally been laid to rest.